Hello, beautiful people. My name's LoLo. If you don't know me or never met me, you can find me at onwardwitchandbeyond.com. That is where I practice holistic personal training, which is where movement, meditation, nutrition, and herbal astrology come into play. I've taught meditation and personal training for many years now, many decades, and I'm not an herbalist. I'm not an astrologer. However, I do use that to help me support clients and myself, and how I move, how I eat. I had multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed when I was 25. I'm now 40. And I healed myself through how I thought, how I moved, how I ate. And then I looked to the stars and to my plant allies for help. No, I am not a vegan. A lot of people sometimes think that I am. I'm actually the opposite. Before the ketogenic diet became this well-known fad, it was one of the things I used mostly, and I didn't call it the keto diet. It was just low carb, no sugar, high fat. Seemed to heal my body. So I don't have tons of meat, but I do have meat. I have a lot more fat than anything else. And from healing from that, I moved on to, in the past 2 to 3 years, had a kind of life upheaval. Life comes at you. I made some poor decisions, and it left me not being able to eat the way that I normally do. So I'm healing a lot of hormones. I had my 5th baby. And so she'll be 2 on the new moon. And I'm still breastfeeding her. So just using, all the new tools, all the old tools, and all the energies about to help heal that. And I can say I'm pretty much almost there to the restoring part of phase of healing. That said, you are here because I've had a lot of requests, especially from my group of doing my glutes, abs, and pelvic floor program, to do some ritual / information around some of the moon cycles. And I've done this before, years prior, and just kind of put it aside because I was not in the space to provide that to people. So take it as you will. This is just merely my intuition, guides, and listening to what people are asking for, and then also what's coming through when we look at the charts. Now, I myself am not an astrologer. My best friend Elizabeth, who is in Hawaii, is an evolutionary astrologer, so I will have her linked so you can reach out to her to get your birth and natal chart done, because I'm telling you, this is when you get your birth and natal chart done, it changes a lot of things, because you can look at the chart itself, but in relation to yourself, you really should have your birth chart there to kind of lay it down on and to look at it. I always say it's almost like you're seeing through. So here's your birth chart and here's the time, and you're looking to see how that pairs up and how you can help support yourself in that time, with movement, with conversation, with rituals, with herbs, things like that. And please, when people hear rituals, sometimes they get a little freaked out, just because they take it to some place that maybe they're not comfortable with. And I ask you to keep an open mind, because when you create sacred space for ritual, you do that even when you get up in the morning. You make time to go pee. Maybe it doesn't seem sacred, but your body sure sees it as a sacred time, because if you don't, eliminate what's built up overnight, then you got a problem. So you have a bedtime routine, you have a morning routine, you have routine around how you eat, the times you eat, you have ritual around these things. And so if you can keep in mind ritual for the moon, it's fairly the same thing, but you're really being purposeful with it, and maybe it's something that you've never practiced before. So I have my little journal here just to keep me on track, so we can keep this fairly short. So with this new moon in Gemini, as we're coming up, we're in the middle. It's May 22nd, 2020. at 1:39 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the new moon will be exact. And this new moon is happening in the time of COVID-19 pandemic. So, there's a lot of social distancing, a lot of not being able to connect as we normally would. And if you've ever met a Gemini, and my two youngest are Geminis, they are wild. And not in a bad sense, but they will ask you 1,000 different questions and really not wait for the answer for any of them, but still be curious about all the answers to them. And they seem to flit and float and flit and float and flit and float. And they just like to make noise. And not as an annoyance to anyone, but because it feeds them to have creativity, to have wild, to have movement. They are, an air sign. So this is their way of moving through life. And I have found with my youngest two, they're like, I call them my Gemini twins, even though they'll be 5 and 2 this week. They seem to balance out. One's very solar and one is very lunar, but they have the same energy. And they need movement, but they also need rubber band boundaries to be able to hold space for them. And so it's the same with the Gemini. When we are moving through this new moon, Gemini asks many, many, many questions. It is a beautiful way to communicate because you're asking questions. How are you ever going to know what you want? How are you ever going to move through life if you don't ask questions? If you're not curious, like live in the curiosity, and it's a beautiful space. However, you have to sit and not ask other people the questions. Turn it around this time with the new moon in Gemini and ask yourself these questions. So during this new moon, in Gemini, Mercury will be is having an exact conjunction to Venus. And currently right now we have a lot of planets in retrograde. So we have Venus in retrograde. And if you're kind of new to astrology or not quite understanding what retrograde is, so essentially it is a time, it almost looks like the planet stops or spins backwards, or, the energy that's around this planet seems to almost be in opposition to how it normally is. So Venus is this beautiful planet of just love and beauty and communicating in that way and moving in that way. So in Venus retrograde, we get a chance to pause and see how we are communicating first with ourselves in relationship to others. How are we loving? What are we loving? Where are we loving? And where are we making beauty? Where do we want to see more beauty? And that's what the Venus retrograde is kind of about. It's different for everybody, but it is in relationship to your highest love and what you're trying to create for yourself. And I'll do some of the rituals I'm going to suggest for this Gemini new moon. And like I said, I want to keep this fairly short. So there's going to be major communication that's coming through, and you want to be able to keep yourself open, like I said, with the rubber bound boundaries. Have a container so that it's not like all over the place. It's focused asking, while also being wild. So I'm trying to think of something that would be, other than myself, wild, but also in a particular area, okay? Just focusing on that. And the moon is all about our emotions and about our intuition. And so when those emotions come up, it's giving them access, giving them to you, access to you and how they want to come through, and not denying that, while also not, like, let's say anger is coming up for you, which is a very valid feeling and emotion. Not letting it hurt other people, not letting it explode so much that you decimate everything that's around you. How, in turn, could you focus that in a different way? It's the same with crying. Giving yourself an opportunity to cry, making space for that to happen so it doesn't come at such a random moment that there's no controlling it, right? It's allowing it to have space. And I mentioned this recently to someone very close to me about creative energy, and they're like, I was just so exhausted, after basically channeling for their work. And she felt like, when spirit comes, you gotta do it right away. And I shared with her, you know, Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who, bless him, has passed over, but he was talking about he gave space to spirit and to creativity, and said, okay, during these hours you have me. On the other part, I need a break, but you always have this time to come through. Rather than denying it, there was some sanity to the process. And Dr. Wayne Dyer's hours, like he would wake up at 3:45 in the morning and go and take a small nap. And his work was dedicated to listening to spirit. And there was also, you know, this place of gratitude always, but also allowing emotions to come up and process. So there could be tears, there could be anger. That it's just intuition, really honing in and tapping in on that. And you know, Gemini with this wild energy is love still. So just keep that in mind, that it may feel kind of like a roller coaster, but also kind of like a party. Or like a party you're not sure if you want to be at, but you kind of like it. And it's not like a train wreck that you're watching. Like you can't take it. It's not like that, but it's just like someone who is alive. And that is this energy right now. And this alive energy is going to ask you questions for yourself. Okay. So I'm going to be listing. So I'm going to jump into this because we're already 11 minutes in. Some herbs that are going to be, that can kind of coincide, that you can use during this time. And obviously I'm not an herbalist, so you want to make sure that these jive with you, but most of these are pretty safe. You could have them as teas, you could put them in an intention oil, you can make your own intention oil, you could use them in a bath, however you deem fit, but I love teas. They're my favorite. Some of the herbs to go along with the moon, also this Gemini moon, and also with this Venus in retrograde. Though we have Saturn and Pluto also in retrograde, but using this. So the herbs would be rose. I love a rose, dried rose, and nettle leaf tea. It's so delicious. Marshmallow root, again, you can use this in a tea. Sometimes I'll put this with a little dried horsetail, and not horsetail as in the hair, but as the plant. And you can also do that with rose and chamomile. Milk thistle is another one, really great for detoxifying the liver. It's just a great tea. I like to have that in the morning time. You could also get it in capsule form of, sometimes people don't like so much the taste of milk thistle, but it's pretty wonderful. Cleavers, really wonderful. So the moon is very oriented to the yin aspects of the universe, and cleavers is about the reproductive system, and that's where Venus also lies, is that whole reproduction, just that, you know, that love space, and so it gives a calming to it. You know, rose and these cleavers will give this calming to any inflammation, any fire that's in the body, just enough not to put it out, just to kind of calm it down, so you don't, how do I say, I don't want to say go over the top, but don't spin out, you know, so that you can focus a little bit more. Because Gemini, the energy can sometimes be like, and believe me, you might say that a few times. I know that I have. When it hit this morning, you could feel the shift and the winds were blowing, and you're just like, oh, okay, we done moved into this season, and I'm okay with it. I did like Taurus season. I'm a Libra sun myself, Capricorn moon, Capricorn rising, but I do have this stellium in Libra, so I really enjoy the wind. I really enjoy the air signs, but I also love Taurus for that Venus aspect, and Earth, because, you know, the Capricorn side of me is just like, I kind of knew this. This is kind of comfortable for me. So moving on, there's also blue lotus. That's a great herb, and hibiscus. Again, all of these can be made into teas. Oh, so yummy. You could have them hot. If that's something, like, depending on where you're living, if the weather is kind of cool, it's something that won't, you know, inflame or kind of ignite the energy that's in you. But you could also have these cool if it's warm outside. So, and most of these produce this beautiful colors in these teas. So that's that Venus showing some beauty through nourishment, okay? So next thing I want to do is ritual. And with a ritual around the Gemini moon is to make sure that we hone in with intention. So new moon is really about planting these beautiful intentions, these seeds, if you would call them. And it's so full. This Gemini new moon is really a beautiful thing because it's so chock full of creative ideas that want to come through. And you think about, Mercury being exact with Venus is the planet of communication. So you have this wild communication and Gemini going, oh my God, like what are we talking about? Like, what's up? So there's a creative energy that's want to come through. So if you can give yourself space to, almost like someone's channeling through your little pen, journal. And I'm going to put up here questions. What do I value? What do I love? What do I love about myself? And you may let that come through, like really sit through. This is not one of those where the teacher asks you a question and you're turning in a report. This is not about that. This is about digging deep and really listening to yourself and seeing what comes up, because you might be surprised what comes up. What do I want from my life? Like, you may be currently happy, and don't think about, goals and things that you had in the past. We're talking about present, and there has been such a major shift on the planet, and probably within yourself, where you still may not recognize yourself. There's a transformation. This is where we alchemize what is going around us, through us, and gonna come right back out, right? So what do you want from life? What does that look like? What do you want from life? So think about that for a second. See what comes up. See what wants to come out. What you write down. And then how do you communicate with yourself? And how are you communicating with others? Because you may not like it. You may love it, how you communicate with others, but are you liking how others are communicating with you? Do you feel supported? Do you feel lack of support? Like, what is going on in your relationships around you? So those are questions to ask while you're journaling, because from those questions, you will set your intentions for the new moon. And that will be, you can have it taped up. I like to have mine taped up. Sometimes you can write in a journal, see it, meditate with it. And you would, as you're writing intentions, you say things like, you're speaking as if it has already happened or is currently happening, like questions that you may have asked, the answers that come through, you're writing like, I'm living this kind of life. I am happy for this kind of life. I am happy that I'm communing in this way. I am happy for the values that I have and blah, 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 blah. So you begin to write that out, because you're going to say it as if, and you'll hear this a lot, and I know there's a lot of spiritual woo-woo kind of bullshit happening, but really this is just declaration of intention. And that's magic. Like, people have called me a witch for years, and it's like, no, I just kind of decide what's going on and I listen to my intuition and then I act accordingly. And when I don't act accordingly, or I dismiss my intuition and act in a different way, that's when I usually end up with problems, where you're like, I aligned with the wrong thing. Don't align with the wrong thing. We all make mistakes. But these questions, like as you're writing it down, let yourself see it as if you're living that. Like, when you make a schedule for yourself for the week and you're like, okay, 5:30 we're doing this. On a Tuesday I'm going to do this. That's what you're doing with your intentions. I am living this right now. I am doing this right now, because it may not be here yet, but your every choice, step, word, everything you're doing, that's calling it to you. That's what people call manifestation, right? This is you just making a plan, and that's what intention is. Just making a plan, but saying as if you already have it. So I hope that makes sense. It can take a little bit, because people are like, did I do it wrong? It's like, no, you didn't do it wrong. Just be purposeful and know that it will happen, right? You got to trust that. And it may not happen like right when you want it, because there's other factors that come into place. And then reach out to people when you start to lose a little bit of faith or a little bit of hope. Those people are going to go, yo, hold up, sis. Hold up. I'm going to tell you, turn around, climb up that mountain, turn around and look back for just a minute. You're not going back down. Look at what you've already created, what has already happened. Look at the beauty of what's down that mountain. And then I want you to turn around and look back up that mountain, knowing that you have a ways to go. But every choice, this is your little, I'm going to stop on the trail, I'm going to write my little map so I know how to get up this part of the mountain, right? And we keep going, okay? Then I want you to daydream. Number 2 is daydream. And that may sound silly, but start daydreaming about the life that you're trying to create for yourself. Daydreaming is such a beautiful and peaceful, definitely Gemini type of thing. But do that. See what happens, what comes up. Pretend like you're a kid and you go and daydream, right? Geminis love wild and imaginative, so don't put limits on this daydream. Don't be like, well, I got like this purse and like I see myself with like a boyfriend, and no, don't do that. Like, live big. Go big or go home, babe. Okay. And then third is I want you to sit. But with this Gemini energy, you usually have to move. So walk near water. Go in the woods, go near water. Or a combination of the two. The ocean is amazing. I'm not so close to the ocean right now. I haven't been near the ocean in about 2 months. But ocean energy is fantastic, but so is fresh water. Anything that's kind of moving, that has motion, because it's you right now. You are water, you are motion. These are things coming through. Ground yourself near this. You can meditate near I went to a creek today and I meditated near moving water, and let me tell you, it was a game changer. So sit or walk near flowing water. Ideally by yourself. Try not to have conversation with another, except what's coming through. Okay. Number 4, a bath with herbs, some salt, and I mentioned some of the herbs, but add things that and maybe a little essential oils if that's what you want. I'm not a particular fan of essential oils in my bath. I think essential oils have their place, but I'm not a big proponent of like use it on fucking everything. Like, no, like that's not sustainable for time. And then, while you're in the bath, sit there and see what comes up. Maybe daydream some more in there, or let tears flow. Like sometimes that water element just lets it come out. Don't judge that. Do that, okay? 5th thing, now it's my favorite thing, dance. And even if you don't know how to dance, put some headphones in. Be in your living room, your kitchen, wherever you want to be. Somewhere maybe that someone doesn't see you because you have some type of feelings about how you dance, or maybe you love to dance and you don't care. But put on some music that fits your flow in that moment and let go. Like, just move. That's why I love to dance, because I get to be wild. And I love so many different types of dance, and I know the steps. But then when it hits me, you just go with it. So I'm going to list a couple songs for you in the description box so you can put those on, and maybe they fit with you, maybe they don't. And last but not least, just make sure after all of this that you write your intentions, okay? Sometimes when I feel like these intuitions, spirit coming through, I get these little tingles on my nose and my ears, and you're like, it's me right now. Just because I'm wrapping up and I want to make sure that there's no other messages that need to come through. But write your intentions. Be open with yourself. This is going to be a really fucking amazing new moon. I know you hear people say that all the time, like, it's going to be such an amazing new moon to manifest your intentions. It's like, nah. If you're sitting still and you know what you value and what you want, like for real, you can't go wrong, babe, because you're aligned and you're trusting spirit and you're listening. And if this is something that's new to you, maybe you're like, the fuck is she talking about? Listen. Everybody has intuition. It's a beautiful thing. When we are connected to everything. It's not us and this. It's all together. And this is not that ooh-ah, kumbaya kind of bullshit kind of thing. Yes, love is this fundamental element that's there. But there's also some other real shit that's going on, We just had a death in our family this week that kind of hit everyone out of the blue. And you sit there and you go, why? Things that come through. I remember last year, and really for the past 5 years, there's been some times where we didn't have a lot of food. And, you know, you sit there and you go, can you hear me? Can you see me? But there was so many beautiful things that transpired, transformed, alchemized out of that. So hang tight, people. Be in your emotions. Let them be valid. Give them space, okay? Give them space to speak. Because it's not only just okay, it is okay. It's okay when life is like really shitty. And it's okay to acknowledge that. But then you say, okay, I've had my moment. I gave it space. What's my next step? How am I setting intention for this? How am I still loving myself? How am I going to communicate better with others? Maybe to set their boundaries better. Maybe how you're going to get more support. How are you, you know, everyone's like, oh, I'm going to do this hustle and hustle and hustle. I'm going to do this thing. Cool. Hard work is amazing. You can't get anywhere without action, right? But you also got to, that's the yang energy. That's that masculine type energy. But the yin, the nurturing, how are you supposed to put action into something when it's not been cultivated, when it hasn't been nurtured? That's like trying to get a baby to walk and they're like 2 months old. They need to be nurtured through this process. And then one day, they walked. And everyone goes, oh my God, it's so magical. No, it's not. It's just process. This is what this is. It's beautiful when it happens, but still just a process. So that's my new moon in Gemini for May 22nd, 2020, which is actually my Sinoihana, my fifth daughter, her birthday. Now the new moon will be exact at 1:39 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. She was born at 11:43 p.m. So if you guys have any questions, I would love to hear your comments below. Please be kind. Like I said, you can find my best friend's, she's an evolutionary astrologer, and you could definitely get your birth chart done with her. And also you can visit me at onwardwitchandbeyond.com. Hit subscribe. You can hit the bell for notifications of when I have new videos. Mondays on Instagram, I do a live yoga. I have a monthly membership that's going on right now for $45. You get 3 workouts a week, 12 workouts a month. 2 of those are the heavy duty sweaty videos, and then one's a yoga, but I always tie in movement, meditation, nutrition, and herbal astrology. That's, you know, kind of the groove of what we do. And I also have a program, and you can always buy it, and the videos are always there, but we're almost done with our 28 days glutes, abs, and pelvic floor. So check me out. The blogs will be up and running again. I definitely took a break from that, but they'll be up and going again, and you can work with me privately too. All sessions are virtual. So I think I covered everything, but definitely give me a like. Helps me get in the algorithm. Even don't like me and it still gets me in the algorithm. But I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys. Any questions that you have, reach out to me, onwardwitchandbeyond@gmail.com, or my website. You know, there's a contact form there, or here. So so much love to all of you as you go through this. There'll be a little bit of, once we get through Friday and this new moon, there'll be a little something lighter in the air. So trust this whole process, and I will chat with you at the full moon. Okay.